Thousands of people have been killed during the 13 months of conflict in Ethiopia. It's difficult to know exactly how many because journalists are not allowed to operate in Tigray. At least 2 million people have been forced to flee their homes, including 60,000 refugees who've crossed the border into Sudan. Large areas remain cut off, which means there's no food. Around 400,000 people face famine in Tigray, and nearly 10 million people need food aid across northern Ethiopia. Tigrayan rebels say that they are leaving so that the blockade and the restrictions on their own people and in that region will be lifted. Well, we can now speak to Teklay G. He's a writer for Terat.com, which has been documenting the fighting. He joins us over Skype from Stockholm. Does this withdrawal by the TPLF mean that they are going to disarm, that there will be an end to the fighting and hostilities?
Thank you for having me on. Well, I think that the Tigray forces have been stuck between a hard place and a rock, because on the one hand, the international community has been making enormous pressure on them to withdraw, so that the Ethiopian government could be convinced into delivering aid, because the Ethiopian government conditioned the delivery of aid on the Tigrayan forces withdrawing from Amhara and the Afar region, although they had to go there to pursue the enemy that would otherwise invade Tigray. So they have that on the other hand, the pressure. But on the other hand, they know that disarming would mean that the Eritrean and the Ethiopian government would invade Tigray the next day and visit the kind of devastation that they had when the Eritrean and Ethiopian forces were in Tigray last year. So I don't think disarming is within the cards in the Tigrayan forces, because if they do that, that would be a dereliction of duty to protect the Tigrayans against forces that have made it clear that they would invade if there was an opportunity to do that.
But might they have to make further concessions to the government, possibly on autonomy and self-rule, if the restrictions on aid are to be eased?
Well, I think that the right thing to do would have been for the international community to heed to the demands that the Tigray forces are making and the Tigray people are making. They are simply saying that they have the constitutional right to self-govern and administer, and that aid and humanitarian assistance shouldn't be conditioned on them disarming or making any concessions. And I think there is only so much concession that they could make without endangering the safety of the people of Tigray. Again, I repeat, the Eritrean and the Ethiopian regimes have made it clear that they are going to do everything in their power to make the Tigrayan people kneel and accept their rule. And the Tigrayans have made it clear that they aren't ready to accept rule from Addis Ababa or from Asmara.
Does that not leave us in exactly the same position that we were in a year ago? It's precisely the same conflict, nothing has changed, only now you have hundreds of thousands of people who are facing famine conditions, thousands have been killed in this war, and millions displaced.
Well, in a way, it's the same situation, because on November 4, 2020, when the war, when the Ethiopian and Eritrean armies decided to invade Tigray, the Tigrayans were saying that the international community should intervene and demand that both regimes respect the territorial integrity of Tigray and respect the right of Tigrayans to self-govern. And I think they are making the same demands now. And also they are demanding that there should be a political dispensation in the country, because the problem is not only in Tigray, except that the situation is worse in Tigray. But otherwise, civilians are being killed in Oromia, and senior politicians from Oromia and from other parts of Ethiopia have been jailed. And the position of the federal government...
Can I just ask you briefly, do Tigrayan forces have any leverage if they've suffered losses on the battlefield and now been forced to withdraw from Amhara and Afar?
So in the letter that the Tigray president wrote to the UN yesterday, he said that the Tigray forces are fully intact and more than capable of defending Tigray. And the reason that they needed to withdraw was because they sensed that this is going to be a protracted war, and it's going to be more suffering to not just to Tigrayans, but because the Ethiopian government has been using drones and other armament from foreign powers, and there has been more involvement of foreign powers. the Tigray government said that the best course of action was to give the Ethiopian government to accept negotiation, lest there should be more devastation for the country, for the whole country. So in terms of leverage, militarily, they say that they are capable of defending Tigray. So they have the leverage, actually, yeah.
Thank you very much, Teklay G for joining us there.
Thank you.